Hello and welcome to today's midday meditation. I am thrilled that you are here. As always, whether you are joining me live or you are catching the recording, I'm thrilled that you've chosen to break the momentum of whatever it was that you were doing and make a decision, decide to do this instead. Pausing, doing something to interrupt the pattern of your day. It's so powerful. And this is what we do together each week. Just by virtue of being here, just by virtue of tuning in, just by virtue of making that choice, that little choice. And so as we gather here, we start always in the same way by finding your comfortable seat, getting nice and settled upon that which is going to support you on this journey, on this inward journey where we are stopping that flow of all of that external noise, all of the to-do lists, all of the things on your screen, all of the deep thinking, all of the action planning, all of the meetings, all of the effort. We're just going to stop. I'm going to press pause on all of those things happening in that external version of you so that instead you can connect with what's inside. That is the invitation here. And so we get settled in our comfortable seat. We close our eyes if it's safe for you to do so. And just take a few breaths. Nice big inhale, nice long, slow exhale. Simple. Just feel the moving of the breath. And we're building on a theme here this week, continuing on this theme of spring. But, you know, if it isn't spring where you are or when you're listening to this, it's no matter. I think the core messages are always consistent. Always the through line is creating less stress, or the guidebook or the framework of stress-less living. Building calm as your baseline. Those are the threads that you'll find through whatever video it is that you pick up and happen to watch. But I really, because it is spring where I am, and the season is beginning to unfold everywhere I look, this idea, this concept of spring really feels relevant to today's message, to today's contemplation. Because I feel like spring is this invitation to quietly move forward, to gently connect with the energy, and to really move into our full expression of ourselves. But here's the thing, for many women, mostly women, that I speak to, that is not what's happening. Spring can be that season where we are feeling, oh yes, we finally arrived, it's finally here. Okay, now I can get to things, right? Now I've got energy again. Now I can do things. You're seeing the change in the weather, the shift in daylight hours, and we're doing more. Or we might be pushing harder, pushing forward, just getting things done until we can finally take that vacation in the summer, where we can finally just relax, be at ease. But up until that point, right, it's push, push, push. And so spring can feel like this pushing harder, even though we're still tired, even though we're mentally full. And this is why I think, in particular in spring, this momentum, this energy that is naturally created, right? Spring is a natural occurrence. There's nothing we need to do to make it happen. It happens. But I think that natural energy is sometimes connected to why we are feeling that extra need to push, to do hard, to do more, to push harder, right? In some ways, it is connecting with that natural energy. But the problem, or the issue that can arise, is that if you are doing so when you are in stress mode, so if stress is your baseline, all of that extra pushing that you're doing in the spring, connecting with that momentum of the spring, it keeps us in that stress loop. So we don't just feel kind of overwhelmed by the momentum of the season. We actually are more apt, more prone to burnout. So that when you finally do get to that summer vacation, you are like in full crash mode, right? Everything, you're taking a break from everything. And I think that, that cycle then creates this within us, this cycle in our seasons, cycles in our energy, where we then, when we get those breaks, right, it's a full pull away from the norm, the activity, where we are longing for that absolute refresh, restart. But it requires kind of that full that full detach and that full crash mode to achieve it. But I do think there's a different way of doing things. And if you've been around for a while, you know that I talk about, establishing calm as your baseline rather than stress, replacing that stress with calm. Because when we stay in stress mode, right, we don't just feel overwhelmed. We actually lose the opportunity to access something deeper. And I think that is the hidden cost of staying in stress mode. It disconnects us from our calm. It disconnects us from our inner strength, our vitality, our clarity, our intuition. And then we second guess ourselves. We can stay quiet when something matters instead of stepping forward. Or we can feel overlooked, dismissed, undervalued. And that is certainly something that I've experienced myself. Definitely when I was kind of in that state of acute stress, I would often find myself staying quiet. And not because I didn't have something clear and something valuable to add, but because I couldn't access what I wanted to. I couldn't access the confidence I needed to say it clearly. I couldn't access the clarity in my own mind to express it in a way that I felt would land. I couldn't access the strength, that inner wisdom. And so I would step back or sit back. Worse, even, when I would say something, I could tell that it didn't land, even though the message was important. What I have to offer, what I had to say, could add value. That strength, that inner fortitude, my clear expression was compromised. And for a long time, I thought that was a reflection actually on my value. My value to the organization, my value to the people around me, my value to my teams. There was a disconnect between what I was feeling internally and the absolute conviction I felt over what I had to offer and my ideas, and how that was landing in the world. And so what I would do then is, push harder, do more work. So many people would say, speak louder, as if speaking louder, being the loudest in the room, somehow has anything to do with value. It's often misconstrued. And that was certainly my experience. But the strength and fortitude of my voice didn't shine through in the way that I wanted to or needed it to, partially because of the cycle of stress. And I say partially because partially it's the internal impact of that. And then certainly the other aspect is that external or cultural ways that our expectations that happen, especially I found in a corporate environment. So I was kind of stuck between the impact of my internal world and the impact of my external environment. But the way through that, like I said, is not pushing harder, trying harder, being louder, researching more, trying to be more prepared, putting in more hours, creating longer to-do lists. Those activities, which I did for a very long time, and I know lots of women do, lots of people do, because I see it and I hear it from others. That is what keeps us in that stress loop, in that stress cycle, in that state of chronic and acute stress. And so what actually works instead to connect with and align with the powers and the energy of this season is not to push harder, not to get carried away with the momentum, in the momentum of the energies, but to first tap into that core inner strength. And last week I talked about the tree and the analogy of a tree. And I share that again here. As a tree winters, it is concentrating its efforts internally, its core structure, its roots, its foundation, its trunk, its vitality, its inner strength. As spring moves forward, that internalized energy starts to push out into the external, into the periphery. And that's when we see the running of the sap. And that's when we see the budding of the tree, the leaves starting to emerge. That is the result of the season of spring. But the result happens only and with that connection to its internal strength that it created through winter. So you see, what we see on the outside and the potential of what we see on the outside is only truly manifests or only truly comes to its full fruition through that internal connection, connecting to strength, connecting to that which is within. And so what actually works is not all of that outward movement. That can work, but for a limited period of time, and then you crash during your vacation. What works time and time again, without the burnout, without the crashing, is being able to stay connected with that internal strength. And one perfect way to do that, to find that quickly and instantly, is through learning how to pause. This is what actually works. Connecting and taking that time to pause, even for a few breaths, gives your nervous system a chance to regulate, harmonize. It creates a space, the distance from the thing that you were working on and the present moment. It breaks up the patterns, the cycles, the momentum, and you reconnect inwardly. Because your strength is not something you need to build. It's something you need to return to. So when we get together here in this midday meditation, and like we've done today, this is your opportunity to step out of stress mode and to gently reconnect with the part of you that already knows, the part of you that is strong and clear and aligned with nature. So as we wrap up today's midday meditation, this contemplation together, and as you get ready for the next few minutes that you'll spend just quietly in stillness, in your pause, remember, this spring, the goal is not to push harder. It's to reconnect to the strength that your stress has been covering. And so, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining. And I'll see you next time. Namaste.